Sally, you grew up in Wagga Wagga, moved to Sydney at the age of 15, attended a sports high school to focus on sport. At 16 you were in the Matildas, significantly younger than most other players. And there's a fear amongst some top-ranking sporting officials in this country that they don't want female teams to be seen dominated by lesbians, as it may dissuade mothers and fathers from allowing their daughters to play, as they fear that they will become lesbians. What was your experience being a Matilda at such a young age?
That was the exact fear I carried from Wagga Wagga into Sydney, actually. And something I certainly had to confront, I suppose, as a 15, 16-year-old girl. Which, yeah, I suppose you just sort of entered me into what I could perhaps finish that off with, Fuzz, and it was a very difficult time for me, but I was very, very focused on my football as a 16-year-old kid, and I was naive, I was innocent, I was out of the country, and it was a perception even of mine, and I was pretty bold about the statements that I then made to my teammates at the time, where I was very sure that I was straight, because I didn't want to fit that stereotype. And for a couple of years, I guess I didn't really explore that. It was suppressed, and I had my football speak for itself. I mean, for all of us up here, I'm sure I can speak for you, but with your sport, you know, it's your passion. Your life makes sense when you throw yourself into that. So I did. I got lost in it for a few years, and it wasn't until I was 21 and I stepped away from football and I allowed myself to explore that part of my life, because I didn't want my sexuality to be defined by my sport, and whether or not that's, you know, each of my teammates' experience, that was certainly how I, you know, kind of attacked my teenage years. But yeah, I've been very sure of myself ever since I was about 21.
Yeah, so what would be your response to those sporting officials who have that fear?
I mean, you know, the stereotypes certainly exist and stigma does around women's sport, but it certainly doesn't make the journey of coming out any easier for that said individual. If anything, there's less shock around, you know, if a female athlete announces that she's gay, there's less media attention, less heads turned. It's not as newsworthy, but for that specific individual, it's a difficult time and they need the support. They want the support of their, you know, chosen sport. They want the support of their community and, you know, family and friends more than anything.
Great. Shelley, you played national women's basketball for the Opals when you were 16. You were pretty much a permanent fixture in that team for the next 15 years, attending 3 Olympics. However, in 1997 you moved to Sydney, began the end of the relationship with your husband after 7 years. And you were,
it's true. It's very true.
And you were dropped from the national team. Is there a connection between you being dropped from the national team and that period you were going through in terms of coming to terms with your sexuality?
Yeah, look, I think it did have an effect on me. It has to have some sort of impact. It was, you know, it was such a focus of my life, and yeah, it was a really difficult time, because when you're going through a tough time, I was similar. Like, I just focused on basketball, and that was all I could think about. And then the coach comes and tells me I'm no longer good enough to play for Australia, and that I'll never play for Australia again. So yeah, it was a really tough time, but there was a happy ending, because I made it to the 2000 Olympics after that. So.
And do you feel that the period when you were going through that confusion actually led to an impact on your performance?
Yeah, well, I think it obviously does, because even though I wanted to just lose myself in basketball, I couldn't, because this was such a massive part of my life. So yeah, it was tough.
Okay, Sal, Martina said, and I thought she was absolutely stunning. I mean, what a role model. I mean, she was funny, she was inspirational. She said she didn't get a chance not to be an activist. Over the past few years, you've become a lot more vocal, and you've published a number of articles. Can you just talk us through, we've understood the need for that. I'm interested in terms of what actually drove that change of approach for you. Well, why did you suddenly see that that's the role you needed to play?
I mean, a sporting pursuit has been a fabulous part of my life, and as we can all attest, I'm sure. But at some point in time, it feels pretty empty, and I think that there's certainly more to what I can contribute to my life, and I guess that's just for me personally, and to utilise sport, to utilise my achievements, of which I was purely just chasing something of which I dreamt from such a young age, and now I'm on this platform that I can utilise sport as a tool to convey a message, and why not? It's something I'm hugely passionate about. I have long identified as a member of this community, and yeah, why not take a step forward? And the platform's there. I mean, agreeing to be an ambassador alongside Daniel, we've had an absolute hoot the last couple of weeks. Connecting with yourself, Buzz. I mean, it's all about creating a movement and joining together and having that momentum continue. And we've all had the experiences of challenges, the heartache that sport can offer, the benefits, and why not, put all that together and use it for the greater good and do something beyond yourself.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we've got about